Hi, I'm Tracy Pierce. Thanks for joining me for this Live with the Animals video series. So this series was really born out of what was happening here in the United States in March of 2020. The coronavirus made its presence known. Places all around the world were going into lockdown, shutdown, shelter-in-place orders kind of things. And it made me really curious about what the animals thought about all of this, both the inside and the outside animals. And, my animal friends really encouraged me to put together this video series and to put their perspective out to the world. So here we are at the end of August of 2020, and there's been a lot more animals who've wanted to come forward, and they've encouraged me to keep doing this. So here we are. So today we're going to talk to a bull snake. And this snake actually lives on the property where I live. And you can't see the whole thing. This is a very big snake. It's at least 6 feet long. And I was talking to the landlord, and she has named this snake Herman. Apparently he's been around the property for some amount of time. And so I'm really curious what Herman might like to share with us today. And so if you're joining me live on Zoom, if you have questions for Herman, there should be a button on the bottom that says chat. Just give a click on that. And if you have questions, go ahead and type them in. If you're joining me on Facebook, go ahead and type any questions you might have into the comment section. So I'm going to go ahead and just get quiet and start tuning into this bull snake. I think this snake has a sense of humor. The first thing he says is, "Well, finally, I've been trying to get your attention for so long. Finally, it's my turn to talk to you." "Well, yes, I haven't seen you around the property for a while. Are you still around, or what's happening for you now?" So it's showing me it doesn't live just on the property here where I live. There are, multiple properties that kind of come together, and it's showing me 3 properties in particular that it goes to visit. It is showing me there's like a chicken house and on at least one of the properties nearby. Sometimes it's able to get, it's showing me like nabbing eggs. Okay. Huh. Is that where you are now? Well, there's a multitude of places that I go and check, and um, it is showing me. I noticed there's a tree kind of outside of my place, and I noticed this big kind of hole there, and it's showing me it is that hole is one of the places that it comes and will hide or hang out for a while. It's showing me, so you can't see it in this picture, but the way there was a dog standing just up the trail here, and it was the dog that actually alerted me to the snake, because the dog started like woo, woo, woo. And the snake is showing me how there's sort of like a pride in itself of being able to scare off this 70-pound dog. It's like, look at me, I'm so small, but compared to the dog, but we're actually quite mighty. Yeah, this snake just feels like there's so much kind of, it almost feels like pride in itself. It's very happy with its living situation. I wonder, I'm curious. I mean, you're a big snake. Do you have any idea how old you are? Well, it's showing me this as its second summer. So it's been around since at least last summer. So, you were, it seems like you're pretty anxious to talk to me. Like you said, oh, it's finally my turn. Are there any things in particular that you want our viewers to know about you or snakes or? It keeps showing me the feeling of, like, I feel it on the front side of my body of the way a snake feels its belly on the ground. It's showing there's actually a very kind of pleasurable feeling as the snake moves across the ground. So you've had a lot of animals talk about the earth element, and we snakes are definitely, there's something important about the earth element, but yeah, it just keeps showing the pleasurableness of it and the movement. And yeah, he's bringing up that phrase, what is it, like to crawl on your belly like a snake. Like there's sort of a condescendingness about that phrase, but the snake is like, it's not like that at all. If you could crawl on your belly the way I did and feel the pleasure in your body the way I do, you would never use that phrase in a condescending way like humans do today. Okay, it looks like we have a question popping up here. So, Herman, do you think humans who use technology is good for us? She's worried that we get too addicted to technology. If we get too addicted to technology, we'll lose our connection with nature. How can we help balance our connection with nature and technology? So the snake is saying that we're really just on the cusp of starting to understand technology. Like he's showing there's been kind of this way humans have advanced technology that doesn't take into account the effect it has on either the larger world or the larger human system or animals, plants in general. We don't take those kind of things into consideration, but we're reaching a point in, it's showing all the global things that are happening with climate change and that today. We're reaching this point where humans are going to have to start taking those things into consideration, how it affects humans and other energy systems. So as humans, we're really good at making and building things, but the snake says humans tend to be really focused on just the physical side of things and don't always understand the energetic effects of the technology they're creating. So there's been a lot of really interesting technological developments up to this point, and the snake believes that there's going to be this kind of turning point where technology either starts to take all these energetic effects into account, or it's showing me kind of like an implosion. It's almost like technology will implode on itself if it doesn't start to take these things into consideration. Okay. Okay, so I'm just holding the other part of your question there, Melia, for him again. Do you feel like there's a way we can balance, technology now? So, well, it's really good when people are aware that technology has an effect on them. Like one simple thing could be to notice, like to take a moment, like you're sitting in front of your TV and you notice just how your energy feels, and then turn off the TV. And then you can, if you're energetically sensitive enough, you can notice like that there is some difference when the TV is on energetically versus when the TV is off. It's saying that could be a very basic way of humans starting to become more aware. He's also pointing towards you know, this is becoming kind of a popular phrase, highly sensitive people, looking to them who can feel these energetic things. Like they may not know why they feel crappy when it's happening necessarily, but to really take these highly sensitive people seriously. And a lot, like, science needs to incorporate that into what they're doing, is showing like highly sensitive people are kind of like the canary in the coal mine, if you will, is what he's saying, to show if this technology isn't reined in, or if it isn't presented in a way that's energetically sustainable to the human system, this is what will happen if it's executed on a large scale. Okay. Yeah, so the snake is just really encouraging those of us, you know, who, I mean, if you're watching this video, you're probably energetically sensitive in some way, shape, or form. Just being aware of how different technologies affect you. It's showing like being aware of the difference between holding your cell phone up to your head versus using headphones versus using speakerphone, and like holding it away from you, to notice how that energetically affects you differently. It's going to take a lot of people coming on board and bringing this information forward. It feels like a lot of autoimmune diseases and mystery illnesses are at least partially due to some of this technology, runaway technology that doesn't think about the energetic effects. Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, he's saying, I want to impress that I don't feel that technology is necessarily bad. Like there is this forward momentum. I'm not advocating for going back to prairie days when people had wagons and, you know, had really difficult lives and things like that. And he's like, I'm not advocating for that. Technology has done a lot of really great things. It's just a matter of like organic or really visionful moving forward with that technology. Okay, I've got another question coming in for you, Herman. Do you think the average person will start becoming more attuned to our energy systems and the energy of the whole world? And what can help this come to pass? It's saying that, you know, it takes a lot for the quote unquote average person to really wake up and to start noticing these things. The snake believes that some of these energetic effects, and that, you know, there are a decent number of highly sensitive people in the world. And the snake believes that, you know, there are enough quote unquote normal, typical people who are connected in some way to a highly sensitive person, that it's almost like they have to observe the effects on somebody for themselves in order to kind of jostle them away. It might even be that it could be something happens to that person that's not a highly sensitive person, something that ends them up in the hospital or something like that, where they start to perceive more the energetic effects of technology or things like this. Let's see if, does that totally answer the question there? Yeah, so yeah, it's showing how the average people will start, he believes, start paying attention to, you know, the highly sensitive people in their family. You know, there's a lot more people who are showing up as quote unquote highly sensitive, whether that's autistic or somebody who's just really maybe considers themselves an empath. There's just a lot more people showing up in the world who are sensitive to these kind of things, and having the average quote unquote person connected to somebody like that is what Herman feels like is the way. Is there more to that at all? Like, do you feel there's a way we could help that process? Or it says, well, watch your daily conversations, you know, like, so, well, this is kind of different with coronavirus now, but he was showing me like a potluck kind of situation where maybe you're with your friends and talking about certain issues, to, you know, if somebody turns the TV on, like, oh, wow, did you notice how that affected, I felt this buzzing in my energy, like bringing up these little bits of conversation where, you know, if you're somebody who's highly sensitive, like to not be afraid to speak it up. And it may be just very low level things, but it is going to make a difference, is what he says. Interesting. All right, so Herman, I'll keep checking for questions for you, but I wonder what else you might like to share with us, or what kind of snake wisdom you wanna share with us today. Well, it's just reminding me how snakes, you know, sometimes get a bad rap because of the whole Adam and Eve thing, the offering, the serpent offering the woman the apple. Do you feel like that's an accurate assessment? Or, oh, absolutely not. No, we're not all like that. We're not all tempting. We do all really like pleasure. It's showing me again like that pleasure of it's almost like a massage on the belly as it moves across the earth. I think that's, the snake is saying, I think that's part of why we get a bad rap is um, we allow ourselves this pleasure in ways that humans don't, for sure, and in some ways other animals don't as well. So it's showing me too, the landlady told me a few weeks ago that she saw Herman with what looked like a whole baby bunny in its belly. And it's showing too, there's like a sensual kind of pleasure in eating. Like it's showing how, you know, in order to consume something that big, he does have to like unhinge his jaw and really kind of pull it in. And there's this really sensual kind of feeling about it. And, you know, the snake is showing, you know, it would be beneficial for humans to eat from that kind of standpoint as well. It's showing, you know, in many families or whatever, there tends to be a lot of chaos during dinner time and, you know, kids screaming and running around and this. But like if you could sit down in a way and be relaxed and actually really enjoy your food, that would be one way humans could be more in touch with what's actually happening in their bodies. It could be one way of starting to become more energetically aware, something so simple as taking pleasure and being aware, actually being aware of chewing and bringing the food to your mouth. There's a certain pleasure that can be activated that helps that sensitiveness and the energy come up. So we've got another question here. Has any animal ever met Adam and Eve before or talked to Adam and Eve in a past life? Well, the snake says, well, certainly there were animals around when that was happening. So there were animals there. Besides the snake is what he's saying. There were lots of different kinds of animals. In some ways is showing like, it's almost like Adam and Eve are more archetypes. Like you could think of them as real people because, you know, this is a legend that happened. But if you think of them more as archetypes, that's more accurate, is what the snake is saying. So it's just showing like there is a way of connecting with the archetype of Adam and Eve, like that idea of who they really are. Do you feel like that's something that's helpful? Well, it depends on the situation. It's kind of pointing at me saying, I don't know that it would necessarily be something helpful for you personally, Tracy, but it could be for somebody else. It has to do, it's more like the beginning of creation kind of thing is what it's saying. I feel like there's something else there that I'm not quite catching. Could you show me a different way or? keep hearing the word myth. I'm not sure what that means. He's saying, you know, he's showing me like all these different, maybe like Greek and Roman myth kind of things I read when I was in school. And it's like kind of comparing it to the Adam and Eve thing. It's like you could take it as literal, or you can take it as just being an archetype or a representation of something else. And so there are a lot of different ways to look at what you're talking about. That's what he's saying. Okay, so I've got another question for you, Herman. How do wild animals choose their names, like Herman? He says, well, I didn't choose Herman. Herman was what the landlady chose for me, but it fits, is what he's saying. I kind of like it. So he's reminding me of earlier, quite a long time ago, we talked to a wild squirrel who was very insistent that his name was Bugsy Malone. And so Herman says sometimes the animals choose the names themselves, but he says a lot of times humans just assign the name. And do you think the animals mind that when the humans assign a name? Oh, not necessarily. We're not so attached to those kind of things like you guys are. It's reminding me of some of the turtles we talked to before, where their names were very, very simple and simplistic because they were, you know, named by 3-year-olds. But the turtles, one time when I talked to them, that they were very insistent that their name was something like Tartanengra, you know, like some really long, beautiful name that humans just wouldn't understand. And so they were willing to go with the names that the humans gave them just because it made it easier for the humans. They're saying, yeah, we're not necessarily so attached to our names. He says, well, Bugsy Malone, that squirrel might be kind of attached to his name, but in general, yeah, it's not so important to us necessarily. It's even showing like we may have ideas in our heads of what our names are that don't really translate into some kind of language. Or, you know, if you're an English speaker, maybe the name that the animal is hearing is more Hindi or something that wouldn't necessarily resonate with an English speaker. So yeah, we're not attached to our names, what he says. Oh, yeah, it gives us, oh, I was thinking of Bugsy Malone. Okay, cool. All right, looks like we are at the end of our time here, Herman. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. Let's see if we're gonna get it to stop here. There we go. So thanks so much for joining me for this series of live animal communications. It's been really fun to bring these live communications to you guys. And I'm definitely planning on doing them for at least a few more weeks. So be sure to join us again sometime. And until next time, take care and be well.